Hello and welcome to Ancient History Encyclopedia. My name is Kelly and today I am joined with a very special guest. I have Simon Young from Lithodomos VR, which is a company based here in Melbourne, which is so exciting.
Oh, hi Kelly. Great to be here, and I'm so happy to be able to chat to you today about Lithodomos and about ancient world.
Very exciting. Let's take our masks off and get comfortable.
Yep.
So do you want to tell me a little bit about Ancient World?
We're so excited that we finally are launching our Ancient World platform. So basically it has 22 virtual tours of heritage sites and ancient sites that have at its base a 360-degree reconstruction. The great thing about them is that you can see them on any device. So that means a tablet or a mobile phone or a desktop computer. Like all of our content, we've partnered with archaeological and historical experts, and also with our leading 3D artist team to create these incredible reconstructions.
Brilliant. So do you want to tell me a little bit about Lithodomos as a company and what it is today?
Yep, sure. So Lithodomos has emerged as a world-leading hybrid archaeology CGI studio that focuses on designing and creating historically accurate 2D and 3D reconstructions of culturally significant heritage sites. So because it was founded by archaeologists, we value above all authenticity, but also combine it with creative direction and state-of-the-art technology to recreate digital heritage sites around the world that are understandable for everybody.
Awesome. So it's completely available for students, younger learners, younger lovers of history, and
Precisely.
Seasoned archaeologists and ancient historians.
Exactly, yeah. We always say that whether you're a fan of history, a visitor to the site, a student, a teacher, a tour guide, or a cultural heritage professional, you'll be amazed by the experience.
So do you want to chat to us a bit about the process of making each scene or
Absolutely.
each site?
Yeah. So what we do first of all is we do a very rough draft, blocks of cubes that represent buildings or cylinders that represent trees, and we kind of render out a very rough draft to begin with, and then we jump into virtual reality and have a look around.
Right.
And there's something about being in virtual reality that's different to seeing it on a screen.
Definitely.
You see the scale, you see the relative position of things, and it triggers this kind of like digital dreaming. And this term has actually been coined by a Korean philosopher as res digitalis.
Right.
And so this is a state of mind where we are inside a computer and dreaming, but awake.
Freaky.
Kind of like playing Space Invaders and you think that you're the spaceship.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is a very heightened form of res digitalis, and this dreaming in virtual reality makes you want to fill in the gaps. And as a researcher or an archaeologist, you see that tree and you start wondering, okay, what species was that tree? Was it really that tall? What kind of leaves did it have? What was on the ground in front of me? I can't see the back of that temple. Why is there a gap there? What was there? Let me go and find out. So all that kind of spatial visual stimulus makes us as the creators want to fill in the gaps. Absolutely. But not with imagination, but with research. So then we go back to the library, we find out what was there, what kind of species of tree it was, has there been any research in that area over there, and we start to fill in the gaps with the archaeology.
Amazing.
So after that, we've got our model beautifully rendered out, beautifully created, all the meshes and the textures applied. Then we put in two cameras with an interocular distance the same as human eyes. Okay. So that you have a left and right image. We render out the experience either in 360 static panorama, or as a 360 movie, or as a real-time virtual reality experience, or as a movie, or as a tablet. So there's so many different ways that we can exploit, we'll deploy the content after we've created it.
Which is awesome. You're not stuck to one way of viewing it or enjoying it.
Exactly.
It gives you so many options and possibilities.
Oh, another really exciting thing that we do is, let's say Athens. Let's take Athens, for example. Athens is very distinctive in terms of its topography. So, and challenging in the sense that buildings are at different levels, different elevations. How do you get that right? Well, luckily, there are high quality 3D scans of the Earth.
Handy.
Yeah, available.
Very beneficial, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Google Earth.
Yeah, Google Earth and NASA and all these other leader open data sets that are out there.
Archaeologists all over the world are thankful.
Yeah, that's right. So we also bring down this mesh from an open source data set, and we tie that to a GIS point, this relativistic origin point. And so we create a shadowy phantom of the ancient world over real topography to scale.
Right, because you'd obviously have to take into consideration that topography changes.
Exactly. That's another thing that comes up. It's amazing the things that we discover when we are doing the reconstructions, new archaeological discoveries or new observations.
Amazing.
There's definitely a paper in this at some point.
Good, that's what we like to hear.
Yes.
Absolutely, because I feel like looking at things from such a different angle, also you're not looking at just one part of a scene, you're looking at the entire thing in equal amount of detail, which is just not what you normally get through a research paper. You choose one very specific point of time or place, but you're looking at such a large scene as a whole, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Thanks. I think that's for kind of, I guess, very philosophical, but what does this mean for people who perhaps well, I guess the end result is there's all this philosophy behind it, and there's all this technical construction and research that goes into it, but the end result is immediately understandable to anyone. There's no need to explain why or the how or the technique to somebody who's not an expert in archaeology. They can jump on to the Ancient World website and immediately appreciate, see the colours, see the mountains, see the trees, see the temples, see the statues, and understand without having, we've done all the work.
Will you have any sort of extra resources available to people that do want to know more?
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing about Ancient World, which is the platform where we've just launched, really,
which is very cool,
is that apart from the 360 reconstructions, which form the basis of each point on a tour, there's a whole range of infographics, maps, and additional information within the tour that visitors can refer to. And probably the most exciting thing that we've added to the experience is, rather than having the live tour guide on site with the virtual reality headset, we've taken the live guide, we've recorded their narrative, their audio, so that's now on the viewpoint. So when you jump online from home or on site, you have an audio recording of a local guide explaining where you are and the significance of it, as if you were there.
Which is brilliant. So you're in very safe hands. Did you meet all these tour guides? Like you've
I've met quite a few of them. However, due to COVID,
of course, I've bane of our existence.
Yes, I've Zoomed with them all.
Yeah, that's great. So you know that you're talking to a really trustworthy person that knows the area, and they have all the best tips and tricks. Right?
Exactly. Yep, they're always experienced guids who know the tricks of the trade and have all the best stories. Brilliant.
And do you have a favourite out of all the ones that you've worked on?
Oh, I love them all.
You love them all? It's like choosing a favourite child.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, that's always good for the people that are going to use it. They're all equally loved from the creators, which is good.
They're all very different and they're all excellent.
Amazing. So I was on your website, Ancient World, and I was having a look, and I noticed that there was no Egypt. There was no reconstructions of Egypt. Is there any reason why, or do you have any plans in the future or anything like that?
We certainly do have plans in the future. We have one viewpoint at the moment in Egypt. It's in our library. And we're looking at expanding the Egypt tour later on. And strangely enough, this point from Egypt comes from Madrid.
Right.
Yeah. How is that possible, I hear you ask?
Yes, I am asking that.
Well, back in I think it was the 1960s, I'll need to check that, but when they were building the Aswan Dam, there was a particular temple, the Temple of Debod, which was going to be submerged by this dam. Yeah. So the Spanish government offered to rescue the temple, and they moved it block by block to Madrid and reconstructed it.
Interesting.
So in the center of Madrid is an Egyptian temple. So we did a tour of Madrid.
And then you saw the Egyptian temple.
Yes,
right.
And the Egyptian temple is one of the viewpoints. So we recreated the Egyptian temple in its original location in Egypt.
Right.
So
Amazing.
if you jump on the tour of Madrid, you will visit Egypt.
So when did you start the project?
Well, we started Lithodomos in 2016. I was studying my PhD in classical archaeology, in Greek and Roman archaeology, actually specializing in Turkey. And I was very interested in 3D reconstruction technology. So I started playing around with various programs to try and, for my own personal benefit,
Sure.
to imagine, to be able to see what the ancient world really looked like. And I thought, well, maybe if I use archaeological plans and elevations and research, I could get it kind of more or less accurate. So that very quickly became an obsession.
Yeah.
It's a rabbit hole.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Archaeologists take amazingly detailed records. You've seen the classic picture of an archaeologist on their hands and knees in an excavation with a brush. But they also have a pencil and a piece of paper and a ruler, and they're measuring everything, exactly where they found it, and plotting it to a plan.
Perfect.
So we use these plans site plans, we call them, and elevations as a basis for our model. So I loaded these into a 3D program called Blender, and then thought, well, what would happen if I took a virtual reality headset and put these models into the virtual reality headset? And if I scaled up the model to real world scale, and I remember the day that I put on the headset and I stepped into the Roman Forum.
Wow.
And I went, oh my God, this is incredible. I thought, and personally I thought, this is just great for me.
This is a very fun personal project.
Yeah, exactly. Then I started showing people and they were amazed as well.
I can imagine. Yeah.
One thing led to another, and in 2016 I met a guy at a bachelor party.
Sure. Classic, right? Where else would you meet someone?
Exactly. And I told him about the what I was doing, and we chatted a bit and thought, there could be a business in this.
Definitely.
So I went away and did a bit of research to see how many people, for example, visit the Roman Forum every year, and I thought, a few thousand at least. Turns out it's around 9 million people a year. Yeah.
There's probably like a few thousand a day that I was there, let alone.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So this is pre-COVID, obviously.
Of course.
Yep. And so I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we had a virtual reality device that you could use on site to imagine what, or to see what it used to look like. That would be a really useful tool.
Definitely.
So on the basis of this, we raised some money in early 2017 here in Melbourne. I'll never forget the headlines. It was archaeology student raises $1 million to rebuild the ancient world in virtual reality.
Crazy.
Weird story.
Weird story,
but it's true.
Yeah, we would have read it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Every archaeology student would be like, yes, thank you, finally.
Yeah. So then we spent the next few years traveling around the world. Mostly, pretty much just Europe, visiting archaeological sites, meeting up with site directors, museum curators, and creating a digital library of over 500 virtual reality scenes of the ancient world.
Insane. That must have been amazing to meet these people that actually work. So they're working on the sites, or? It
was so surreal. In 1 week, I remember I was driving around. One of these colleagues was driving me around on his moped on his Vespa, around the Colosseum.
Very Roman site.
To a meeting with the director of the Colosseum.
Wow.
To show him our reconstructions.
That's amazing.
And then the following week at the in King Herod's palace in Jerusalem, sharing our reconstruction of the palace with the district archaeologist of Jerusalem, all within a few days. I'd wake up in the morning and go, "Is this real?"
It's like, this is my life now? Like, how did this even happen?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Insane. So you must have met some amazing people then.
Absolutely. Amazing people all around the world. I mean, archaeologists are incredible people anyway. I'd say that pretty safe. It's pretty safe to say that we're not in it for the money.
No, we are not.
No, it's for the love of the ancient world.
Absolutely.
And that's definitely what drives me.
And I think you can see that in the work, though. Like, you can definitely see the amount of time and effort and love that's gone into it. When you were in Europe, did you already have your plan? Like, what sites you wanted to do, or while you were there, did you discover more?
Well, we took a very pragmatic approach to it. We thought the best way to go about it would be to speak to the local tour guides.
Sure.
Because in any city, for example, let's take Ostia, for example, tour guides know the best spots because they've been doing it for years and years and years. They know where the best stories are. So we consulted very heavily with the local tour guides, and they suggested to us, you should do this, you should do this. We always stop here. No, don't do that. It's too far away from the main trail.
Sure.
So the established routes of local tour guides really drove what we recreated.
And did you already have the idea to have a tour guide narrate the VR experience before that, or did that come to you whilst you were talking to them?
Well, the first iteration of the VR deployment was headsets on site with a real tour guide.
Right.
So a tour guide, one of our friends in Rome, Dario, would take a group of people with a couple of headsets around the Roman Forum and around the Colosseum, tell the story and paint the picture and say, okay,
and now,
put on the headsets and have a look.
Crazy.
And got 5-star reviews on.
Because why wouldn't it? Any
Yeah.
use of VR would definitely get you 5-star reviews.
Yeah. The big issue was that at that time VR headsets were a bit clunky. The technology was a bit they were pretty hard to assemble. Batteries would run out, etc. So we thought, well, we've got all this great content locked up in these VR headsets. And as you saw before, you have to actually put it on. You do. Yeah,
and you truly don't know where you are anymore. Like when I took it off, I had no idea. Like I'd actually moved from where I started, and it was very weird. It's very strange.
Yeah. So not everyone has access to a headset, and not everybody feels comfortable to go into virtual reality for whatever reason. So we thought, well, why not unlock the content and make it available cross-device? So that's what we're working on now, a new platform called Ancient World.
Ancient World. Brilliant. And so while you were doing the reconstructions, obviously you've worked off site plans, guys, you've got as much detail as possible. How much of it was from your own mind? How much of it was artistic liberty versus actual archaeological evidence?
Well, first and foremost, I'm an archaeologist, so...
that's what we like to hear. Yes. That's good.
So all of our reconstructions follow a really long tradition of anastylosis or reconstruction from the physical record. So you probably some of the viewers might be aware of these beautiful 19th century engravings that European travellers did on their trips to Turkey and to the Far East, where they did reconstruct temples and agoras and forums, but they always made sure that everything was based on the actual physical remains. And when they got to a point where they couldn't really be sure, they looked at parallels, they made reasonable assumptions to make it as certain as possible. So we never use our imagination to fill in the gaps.
Like that.
We use parallels if necessary, and if there's a level of uncertainty, we do our very best to do what we think is the most plausible reconstruction for those. So first of all, it's a little bit philosophical.
That's fine.
So it's a mixture between Einstein and quantum physics.
Sure.
And this is the philosophical part. So first of all, we need a place in the world expressed as a GPS coordinate. Okay. And then we need a time expressed as a date. So that time and place informs the entire process. So think of it like dropping a pin on a Google map. So in the universe, there's this theory that reality collapses to the observer.
Right.
Now, what you can't see doesn't exist.
Right. Okay.
So we drop this virtual camera onto this GPS coordinate, and then we look at what is very close to you, what is a medium distance, what is far away, and what is invisible from view. Because we only create what you can see from that point.
Which makes complete sense, because what's the point of doing more work if no one can see it?
Exactly. So we put a lot of effort into the small details right in front of you, like the dandelions and the rocks, and there's a lovely view in the Palatine Hill Palace overlooking a garden on the so-called Domitian Stadium, and there's a wax tablet right in front of you.
Wow.
And there's a stylus, and there's a little bit of love poetry on the wax stylus from a graffito in Pompeii. So that's rendered out lovingly in a lot of detail because it's so immediate, and we connect you, the viewer, to this close, intimate, let's say 500 centimeter, 1 meter bubble around you.
That'd make it feel a lot more real as well.
What's kind of like a mental trick, because once you see something of very high detail, very close to you, your brain is ready to accept everything.
Of course.
So if that dandelion looks so real, then that temple 500 meters away must have the same level of detail.
That makes complete sense, though.
Yeah. And of course, when we do move the camera, in, for example, in a video or a virtual reality tracking video, we render out everything at higher level detail as you get there, but only when you get there. So that's coming back to that idea of the quantum universe collapsing in front of you as you're close to it.
Right.
So, and that kind of Einstein theory of relativity, it's all about that time in space, the place and time, which informs the entire recreation. So that's kind of the philosophical framework behind it. The practical, there's a little bit more philosophy.
That's fine. Is there a criteria that the sites need to meet for you to be able to recreate them?
We generally choose sites with a high visitor volume.
Okay.
So the top two most visited archaeological sites in the world are...
Would be the Parthenon?
Yes.
Yeah.
And...
It would be the Colosseum.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yes. So you'll see. Well done.
Top two sites.
Yeah. So you'll see that those are on the top
Sure.
of our list, and then we call those big sites. Then we have Pompeii's another big site. Ostia is another one, and then we have our medium sites and our small sites. So we have been choosing the most visited sites. That's where generally the most interest is for people who want to visit. But we're not limited by that. We've also done work at Sepphoris, and that's in Israel.
Okay.
And if your viewers aren't aware, it's an incredible place. It's called. It has a mosaic that's called the Mona Lisa of mosaics.
Wow.
It's a beautiful portrait in a villa in Sepphoris, and this was the place where the priests from the Second Temple fled after its destruction.
Wow.
And there's a Jewish quarter with a whole heap of ritual baths for purification there. It's a Roman site, incredible mosaics, very popular in Israel, but not that well known outside of Israel.
Right.
We have done some work there, for example. We also created a site in a country that has been suffering a little bit in terms of tourism numbers, and that's Iraq.
Right.
So we created the ziggurat of I always wonder why did they call it So one of the first cities in the world. What do you call it?
I like it.
So we actually did that in conjunction with Gonzaga University in Washington State with my good friend Professor Andy Goldman, who's been running a virtual reality component with his Roman archaeology course over the last 2 years or so.
Awesome.
So yeah, and that's I guess another great thing about the ancient world is it's education really.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I was going to say this could work in schools and universities and for people that are aware of the top 2 popular sites but aren't aware of the rest.
Precisely, and in fact, in this world of lockdown, and luckily for us in Melbourne, we're out of lockdown, but we stand in solidarity with the rest of the world. Teachers teaching remotely, it's a challenge.
Definitely.
How to keep students engaged and interested. So, Ancient World, due to its extremely interactive, lean forward. User interface where you can click around and find out for yourself and navigate for yourself is a great tool that many teachers have used to get students to work on independently. Well, with supervision, but independently.
Keep them interested.
Keep them interested. Yeah.
Absorbed.
Exactly. Here's an hour. Here's the tour of Pompeii. Here are the Easter eggs you need to find.
Yes, absolutely.
Good luck.
I mean, we may not be able to actually travel for some time, so it's nice to know that we do have the option to explore from the comfort of our own home as best as possible.
Yeah, precisely.
Which is very cool.
Yes, yeah.
Do you have any plans? I know you've got ancient Athens, ancient Rome. Do you have any plans of doing pre-classical periods, for example, Mycenaeans, Minoans, those kinds of people?
Yeah, it's an interesting moment in archaeological history. We've done Stonehenge,
which is awesome.
We've done
cool.
Cromoleque, which is in Portugal, which is another Neolithic site, and also a few recreations in Cordoba of Neolithic sites. We haven't gone into the early Iron Age or to the Mycenaean period yet.
Yeah. So as we were talking before about the changing in topography, I noticed you have Ostia. How did you work with the changing of the coastline? Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a fascinating project because as you might know, when you go to Ostia today, you get to the end of the site. And you go to the Porta Marina and you expect there to be the sea, and there's this ugly highway and fields as far as you can see. So it's really quite stunning because the viewpoint matches the archaeology of the site so carefully. When you've got your tablet or your AV guide there and you hold it up to the Porta Marina, it matches, and then you can just kind of pan around and you see the sea.
Wow.
Instead of the highway.
Amazing.
And the boats. And so you immediately get this sense of the changing topography. And just as another small connection with Ostia, incredible synagogue. There's an incredible synagogue located near the Porta Marina, which is one of, if not the first synagogue outside of Israel.
Wow.
That we've recreated as well.
That's brilliant.
And it's just a spectacular building. Not many people go there because they don't know what's there when they go to Ostia, but this is a great way of reinvigorating or attracting visitors to points within a site that aren't very often visited.
Yeah, not as well known, might have been forgotten.
Exactly.
Bigger sites.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have anything in the pipeline? Do you have anything that you're working on that you can tell us about that?
Well, yeah. So we're not just ancient, I have to say. We recently released a tour of colonial Hobart.
Wow.
Which is a little bit closer to home.
It is very close to home. It's just over there.
Yeah, so in 1829.
Wow. Okay. Very different to ancient Athens.
Exactly. Fascinating though. Australia's convict heritage, and also we have in the pipeline Malaga.
Okay.
So, and that is in the time of the childhood of Picasso.
Wow.
So this is the Malaga that Picasso saw as he was growing up before he went to France. So that's in the pipeline. That's coming up very soon.
That's very exciting. I did see that you also have Renaissance sites as well. What made you want to do a Renaissance sites after being an archaeologist of ancient Greece and Rome?
Once we sunk our teeth into the ancient Greek and Roman world, we realised, well, the techniques that we used for recreating archaeological sites are very easily transferable to other periods in history.
Awesome.
So, using plans, elevations, paintings, engravings, these form the basis of reconstructions of more recent sites like Madrid, Renaissance Madrid, like Hobart, and like Malaga.
Brilliant. I love it. Fantastic. So apart from this digital platform of brilliant reconstructions, do you work with museums or anyone else other than just your own company?
Yes, in fact we do. And one exciting development within Lithodomos is the expansion of our product portfolio. So now we're working on 360-degree cinema installations,
Wow.
tablet interactive displays for artifacts, also audio-visual guides for museums that incorporate our 360 reconstructions.
Brilliant.
And the museum's local guide as an audio tour to make it really easy for museums to upgrade their technology.
Very cool.
So any museum directors out there, get in touch because we have some amazing solutions for you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Simon, for joining me. I will put all the links to Lithodomos down below. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
It's been entirely my pleasure. Thanks.